Before we begin, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, not for me, but for yourself. If your path is one of self-understanding, individuation, and the awakening of inner truths, this space will nourish that journey. In this channel, we explore not just motivation in the shallow sense of fleeting excitement, but the kind of enduring transformation that only comes through deep psychological insight. What you seek is not outside of you. It has always lived within. Now, let us begin. Love is not an escape from the self, it is a return to it. Yet, many pursue love as a form of distraction, a beautiful deception that momentarily shields them from their own inner chaos. But the truth, the deep and sometimes painful truth, is this: one is not ready to love another until one has confronted the illusions they harbor within. Until the ego surrenders its fantasy, love remains a performance, not a reality. We live in an age of projections. We cast our own denied desires, fears, and hopes onto others and call it love. This is not love, it is illusion wrapped in intimacy. Real love cannot blossom while we are blind to the unconscious patterns directing our affections. To love authentically, one must reclaim those projections and face the raw, unfiltered self. It is only in doing so that we cease to love others for how they make us feel and begin to love them for who they truly are. This death of illusion is no small task. It is a psychological death, a descent into the underworld of one's own psyche. It requires that we peel away every mask, every defense mechanism, every carefully crafted identity that has protected us from vulnerability. The ego resists this with all its might. But what the ego calls death, the soul knows as rebirth. In this descent, we do not lose ourselves, we find the truth of who we are. And so, I say, you are not ready for love until you are willing to die to everything you thought love should be. Only then will you be reborn into a love that does not demand possession, does not fear abandonment, and does not seek completion. That is the love that heals, transforms, and liberates. That is the love the soul remembers. Before you can offer love to another, you must first wrestle with the part of yourself you most fear, the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the truth of you that you have refused to see. It is every thought you've repressed, every impulse you've denied, every feeling you've judged as unacceptable. It hides not because it is weak, but because it is powerful. And until you recognize this force within, you will unknowingly direct it outward. You will see your own denied self in the eyes of those you claim to love. We do not fall in love with people, we fall in love with the projections we cast upon them. We do not hate them either. We hate our shadows mirrored back to us through them. This is the great danger of unconscious love. It binds two people not through true connection, but through mutual blindness. One cannot see the other because one has not yet seen themselves. Thus, love becomes entangled with resentment, disappointment, and the quiet bitterness of unmet expectations. It is not that the other failed, use it is that we ask them to complete what we have not yet completed in ourselves. To confront the shadow is to step into sacred conflict. It is to say, I am willing to see the darkness within Menno, to condemn it, but to understand it. This requires courage that few possess, because it is far easier to blame others than to witness our own complicity in the suffering we experience. But once you take responsibility for your shadow, it loses its power to sabotage your relationships. You are no longer controlled by your unconscious. You become conscious. And in that awareness, love begins to purify itself. Only a person who has made peace with their shadow can love without needing the other to play the role of savior or scapegoat. Such a person does not love in order to be saved. They love because they have already been reborn. Their love is not need, it is presence, and presence is the foundation upon which true intimacy can be built. Until you see your own darkness, you will believe love is light. But once you have embraced your shadow, you will know that love is both. There is a profound illusion that haunts modern love, the belief that another person will complete what is lacking within us. This fantasy is not love, it is dependency. It is born from the fear of our own inner emptiness, from the terror of facing our solitude. But love is not the union of two halves, it is the meeting of two wholes. Until you become whole within yourself, love will serve not as liberation, but as a chain disguised in beauty. Wholeness is not perfection. It is not the eradication of flaws or the attainment of some idealized self. Wholeness is the integration of all that you are, your joy and your grief, your power and your vulnerability, your conscious mind and your unconscious depths. It is the marriage of the opposites within. Only when these forces are reconciled inside the self can we approach love without projecting our inner battles onto another. The man or woman who has not made peace with their own incompleteness will unconsciously demand that others carry what they themselves refuse to hold. This burden fractures love. It breeds resentment and guilt. But when we have done the work of becoming whole, we ask nothing from love except the opportunity to give. We do not seek to be filled, for we are already overflowing. We offer ourselves not in desperation, but in devotion. So ask yourself, have you loved yourself enough to stand alone? Can you bear the silence of your soul without reaching for another to quiet it? Only then, when your inner being is still and whole, will your love no longer be a cry for rescue, but an invitation to share the miracle of your own completeness. That is the kind of love that does not destroy, it awakens. The desire to control is rooted in fear. We fear losing what we value, so we tighten our grip. We fear rejection, so we try to mold the other into someone who cannot leave us. But love that must be controlled is not love, it is possession. And possession is not born from connection, but from the ego's need to dominate what it does not understand. Real love is an act of surrender. To love someone is to allow them the freedom to be fully themselves, even when that self evolves beyond our comfort. But the ego resists this. It clings to the image it first fell in love with, and when the person changes, the ego rebels. It says, "You are not who I thought you were." But love does not seek to freeze a person in time. Love adapts. Love flows. Love listens not to the voice of control, but to the rhythm of the soul. Control arises from the unconscious assumption that love is a transaction. If I act this way, you must respond in kind. But love is not governed by symmetry. It is asymmetrical, wild, unpredictable. When we seek to control love, we kill its mystery. We replace wonder with expectation, intimacy with obligation. The one who loves must first relinquish the need to dominate the unfolding of the other's being. And so, the greatest act of love is not to hold tightly, but to open one's hands, to say, "I see you, and I allow you to be." This does not mean passivity, it means respect. It means honoring the autonomy of the one you love. When you let go of control, what remains is truth, and only truth can be the soil in which real love grows. We are taught to hide our wounds, to cover them with smiles, to silence them with distraction. But in the language of the soul, wounds are sacred. They are the entry points through which light can penetrate the darkness of the unconscious. It is often through our deepest pain that we become capable of the deepest love. For it is suffering that humbles the ego and reveals the interconnectedness of all beings. The person who has never suffered deeply cannot love deeply. For love is not merely a feeling, it is a willingness to be broken open. And those who have walked through the fire of their own despair do not run from the pain of others. They recognize it, they sit with it, they offer presence, not platitudes. Their love does not seek to fix, but to witness. When we share our wounds in love, we offer not weakness, but authenticity. We say, "This is where I have bled, this is how I have survived." and in doing so, we create a space where the other can do the same. This is the foundation of intimacy, not perfection, but shared vulnerability. It is here, in the raw and unguarded places, that the human soul touches another. Do not be ashamed of your scars. They are not signs of failure. They are symbols of initiation into the deeper dimensions of the heart. Your pain has made you more human, and your humanity is the very thing that makes you capable of love that is tender, compassionate, and real. When we are unaware of our inner world, we begin to project it outward. We mistake the face of another for the shape of our own unlived truths. We see in others what we have not yet claimed in ourselves. This process of projection is the enemy of true love, for it replaces the reality of the other with a fantasy of our own creation. You may think you are in love with someone, but often you are in love with what they represent to your unconscious. Perhaps they reflect your ideal self, or the parent you never had, or the comfort you were denied. But this is not. Love it is substitution. It is the ego's attempt to heal the past through the present. And while this can feel intoxicating, it is ultimately unsustainable. Only presence can dismantle projection. When you bring the full awareness of your own inner world into relationship, you stop demanding that the other carry what is yours. You no longer see them through the lens of your wounds, but through the eyes of your soul. This is the beginning of compassion, of empathy, of real connection. So long as you are projecting, you cannot love. You are using. And the person you are using will eventually sense this. They may not know why, but they will feel unseen, misunderstood. This is the tragedy of unconscious love. It fails to meet the other as they are. To truly love is to remove the veil of illusion and see what stands before you. That seeing is what heals. Responsibility is the soul's acknowledgement of consequence. In love, we often desire only the feeling, the high, the warmth, the belonging. But true love requires responsibility not just for our actions, but for the emotional realities we co-create. If you are not willing to be responsible for the way your presence shapes another's inner world, then you are not yet ready to love. This is not about blame. It is not about becoming a martyr or carrying another's suffering. Responsibility in love is the sacred act of choosing awareness. It is saying, I will not abandon my impact. I will not hide behind ignorance. I will look into the mirror you hold before me, and I will answer for what I see. Without this willingness, love devolves into manipulation, a game of unmet needs masked by empty promises. Many speak of love as if it absolves us from responsibility, but love does not free us from consequence, it deepens it. For when we open the heart, we also open ourselves to the profound responsibility of witnessing another person's soul. That is not something to be done lightly. To love is to hold another's heart as gently as you would hold your own. To wound them carelessly is to harm yourself. So, ask yourself not, do I feel love, but am I capable of carrying it? Can you be a vessel for love that heals rather than harms? Are you willing to be accountable for your energy, your words, your silence? The soul does not care for sentiment alone. It seeks responsibility, truth, and depth. Without these, love is a shadow of its true nature. So many believe that love is the loss of self in another, that to truly love is to dissolve boundaries and become one. But this is not love, it is fusion. And fusion, though intoxicating in the beginning, is the death of growth. True love is not the merging of souls, but the meeting of two sovereign beings who see each other clearly and stand beside one another, not within. To lose oneself in another is to abandon the process of individuation, and when you abandon yourself, resentment will follow, because eventually your soul will cry out for the freedom it has forfeited. Love, in its highest form, does not demand that we vanish into the other. It invites us to remain fully, and firmly in our own being while making space for another to do the same. The most profound relationships are those where neither person becomes the other's shadow, where love is not a prison but a sanctuary in which both can unfold. Merging is rooted in fear, fear of abandonment, fear of solitude, fear of responsibility, but meeting is an act of love grounded in respect, in presence, in the quiet recognition that I am I and you are you, and still I choose you. When we meet in love, we do not devour, witness, we do not consume, we connect. This kind of love does not burn out, for it is not sustained by fantasy, but by the strength of two individuals who have walked the path of self-discovery and now offer one another not their need, but their essence. The child you once were has not disappeared. They live within you, still waiting to be seen, heard, and loved. And until that inner child is acknowledged and healed, they will direct your relationships from the shadows. You will not be loving with the maturity of your present self, but with the longing, fear, and pain of the child you once were. Unconsciously, you will seek out partners who mirror your earliest caregivers. You will replay the patterns of abandonment, enmeshment, rejection, not because you are broken, but because the psyche seeks wholeness through repetition. Love becomes the stage upon which your unhealed childhood is reenacted. The unconscious does not care for time. It only desires integration. To heal the inner child is to return to those early wounds with compassion. It is to say, I see you, I will not leave you again. It is not your partner's job to heal this child. That is your sacred task. When you meet your own pain with love, you free your partner from the burden of completing your past. You liberate them to love you, not as a savior, but as a companion. Until then, love will remain confused with survival. You will love to be chosen, you will love to feel safe. But when the inner child is held within your own arms, you will no longer beg others to do it for you. You will walk into love with open hands, not empty ones. And from this wholeness, love will finally be free. Every true transformation requires a death, not of the body, but of the identity. The self you were before, love the self, that clung to roles, to ego, to safety, must die for a deeper self to emerge. This is the mystery of love. It is both birth and burial. It is the collapse of the false self, so that the soul can be revealed. Most resist this death. They wish to remain who they were while experiencing the depth of connection that only a transformed self can hold. But love is a fire. It burns away illusion. And if you do not surrender to the fire, you will suffer. You will feel torn between the person you were and the person love is calling you to become. In this dying, you will grieve. You will mourn the loss of who you thought you had to be loved. But as the ashes settle, you will discover something eternal within you, the part of you that does not perform, does not fear, does not hide. This is the true self. The self capable of love that transcends attachment, fear, and need. To love from this place is to love from the soul, not the persona. You no longer love to be seen, you love because you see. You do not love to be needed. You love because it is your nature. And so, do not fear this death. It is not the end of love. It is the beginning of the love you were always meant to give. Solitude is the crucible of the soul. It is in solitude not lonelies that we come to know ourselves outside of the masks we wear for others. In solitude, we meet our fears, our longings, our truths. And until we are able to dwell peacefully in our own presence, we will bring restlessness into the presence of others. Real love cannot arise from such restlessness. It arises from stillness. Loneliness is the absence of connection. Solitude is the presence of the self. Many enter relationships to escape loneliness, only to find that they carry the emptiness with them. But the one who has befriended their solitude has already touched the eternal. They do not enter love to be filled. They enter to overflow. This is the difference between love that is desperate and love that is divine. The soul longs not for distraction, but for deep reflection. Solitude teaches us how to hold our own hearts with tenderness, how to attend to our inner life without fear. This, in turn, becomes the template for how we hold others. When you have learned to be with yourself in honesty and compassion, you will bring that same presence into your relationships. Thus, you are not ready for love until you have made solitude your sanctuary. Love that is born in solitude is not a hunger, it is a gift. It is the song of a soul that has remembered itself and now wishes to share that remembrance, not as need, but as offering. There is a great difference between romance and union. Romance, as the ego knows it, is seductive, dramatic, and fleeting. It thrives on tension, on pursuit, on the fantasy of being chosen. But union, that which the soul seeks, is quiet, steadfast, and transformational. Romance is the spark. Union is the fire that endures. The ego desires to be adored, praised, affirmed. It craves attention as proof of worth, and so it chases romance as a way to validate its own fragile identity. But the soul is not interested in performance. It does not need to be worshipped, it only seeks to be known. It longs for a connection that dissolves the illusion of separation, not through possession, but through communion. In true union, love becomes a mirror in which both souls are reflected not as fantasies, but in their wholeness. Union holds space for contradiction, for growth, for the alchemical process of two psyches meeting and transforming. It is not free from difficulty, for real love confronts, it challenges, it awakens. But it does not abandon. Ask yourself, are you chasing the thrill of romance, or are you cultivating the soil of union? One leaves you longing, the other leaves you expanded. You are not ready for love until the soul's longing outweighs the ego's hunger, for only then will you see beyond the veil of attraction and into the sacred realm of real relationship. Many believe that love will heal all wounds, that once they find the right person, the ache will disappear, the anxiety will vanish, the emptiness will be filled. But love is not a cure. Love is a mirror. It does not remove the wound, it shows you where it is. It reflects the places in you still yearning for your own attention. The person you love will awaken your deepest fears, not because they are unsafe, but because they are close. Love exposes the soul. It strips away the defenses you've built to survive and says, "This is where you are still in pain." This is not betrayal, it is the beginning of true healing. But that healing is not theirs, to do it is yours. If you expect love to fix you, you will turn the relationship into a battleground. You will ask the other to carry what only you can hold, and in doing so, you will kill the very love you sought. But when you understand that love is the great revealer, not the great repairer, you become sovereign. You say, "Thank you for showing me what I could not see alone." The mirror of love is sacred. It is not always gentle, but it is always true, and truth is what the soul longs for most. So if love brings you face to face with your brokenness, do not flee. Stay. Witness. Heal. You are not ready for love until you are ready to be seen not just in your beauty, but in your becoming. Before you can love another, you must first come into deep relationship with your own soul. This is not narcissism, it is necessity. For how can you offer presence, honesty, and compassion to another if you have never practiced these with yourself? Self-love is the foundation upon which all other love is built. This love is not indulgent, it is rigorous. It means looking at your own darkness without turning away. It means forgiving yourself not because you are perfect, but because you are worthy. It means listening to the quiet voice within and honoring it above the noise of the world. The one who has not loved themselves will ask others to do what they have refused to do. Loving the self teaches you discernment. It teaches you what you will allow, what you will release, what you will offer. It aligns your external relationships with your internal truth. Without this foundation, love becomes chaotic. You abandon yourself to keep others close. You silence your needs to avoid rejection. But when you are rooted in self-love, you no longer betray yourself for the illusion of connection. And so, the deepest truth is this: you are not ready for love until you can stand before a mirror and say, "I see you, I accept you, I love you, and I will not abandon you again." Only then can you meet another and say the same, not as fantasy, but as truth. Love is the fire that transforms. It is not a comfortable experience, it is an alchemical process. It burns away falsehood, melts resistance, purifies the heart. Those who seek only comfort in love have not understood its purpose. Love is the great initiator. It calls the ego to surrender and the soul to rise. Every real relationship is an alchemical vessel. Two souls enter, and neither leaves unchanged. This is why love is sacred. It does what no therapist, no teacher, no doctrine can do. It brings the unconscious to the surface through intimacy. It confronts you with your hidden wounds, your unconscious desires, your soul's hunger, and it says, transform. But you must choose. Will you allow love to change you, or will you resist? Will you let it burn away the parts of you that are not real, or will you cling to what is familiar? The ego fears annihilation, but the soul knows that through this fire, you become something more, not someone else, someone true. So I leave you with this. You are not ready for love until you are ready to be transformed, not by another, but by what love awakens in you. That is the final alchemy. That is the great truth. Love is not the reward for healing, it is the path through which healing becomes complete. If these words stirred something in you, some memory, some truth, some forgotten fire, subscribe, not for content, but for communion. This channel is a vessel for the soul's awakening, through the depth of psychology, the wisdom of dreams, and the eternal fire of transformation. We walk this path not to escape life, but to live it more fully. Until next time, go inward, go deeper, and above all, be whole.